Ever feel like you're watching this intricate dance of ambition and influence, but you can't quite figure out the steps?
Right.
Today, we're handing you a VIP backstage pass to the art of power dynamics with Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power.
Think of it as a playbook, but instead of football, it's decoding human behavior. Greene doesn't sugarcoat it. He dives right into the nitty-gritty. Even suggesting deception is as much a part of us as breathing.
Okay, hold on. Before you think we're telling you to channel your inner villain, remember, this isn't about manipulating everyone you meet. It's about recognizing the game being played. So you call the shots.
Precisely.
Take
law number 1. Greene doesn't even wait for an introduction before hitting us with this. Deception is fundamental. We're hardwired for it. He even uses Odysseus as a prime example. Someone whose cunning was legendary.
It's almost funny we tell kids to be honest, but then praise those clever enough to bend the rules without breaking them. It's in our DNA, right?
It is. And while we don't want to become masters of manipulation ourselves, the key takeaway here is recognizing those subtle signs, those tells that someone might be trying to play us.
So it's about self-preservation as much as anything else.
Absolutely.
Which leads us to law number 2. Never outshine the master. Greene recounts this chilling tale of a storeman Frady, a guy whose only crime was being more charismatic than the infamously insecure Cesar Borgia.
To talk about a cautionary tale.
I know, right?
It's a stark reminder that even the most talented individuals can become victims of their own strength if they fail to understand the dynamics of power at play.
It's like being punished for being the smartest person in the room. It sounds crazy. But I've definitely seen this play out even in seemingly harmless settings.
Absolutely. Whether it's a corporate boardroom, a social gathering, or even a family dinner.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The principle remains the same. Those in positions of power, particularly those who feel insecure, often perceive those who outshine them as a threat.
So what's the solution? Suppress your own brilliance.
Not necessarily. Greene suggests that we become masters of strategic presentation. It's not about dimming your light, but rather finding ways to make your superiors feel more intelligent. Not less, by subtly highlighting their expertise.
It's like the old adage, make them believe it was their idea all along.
Exactly.
But then there's law number 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim. This one comes with a story that almost feels like it's straight out of Hollywood.
Let's hear it.
Picture this, 1926. Al Capone's office. A count strolls in promising to double Capone's money.
Now, you'd think a guy like Al Capone, someone who practically invented the con,
would smell a rat a mile away.
Of course.
But that's the genius of this Count Victor Lustig. He was playing on a deeper level.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish, he'll question why you're being so nice.
Exactly. Lustig understood that even the most ruthless people crave genuineness. It's about tapping into that human need for connection, for sincerity, and using it as leverage.
So even Capone, a man who built an empire on intimidation and violence, was vulnerable to a well-placed act of kindness.
It's true.
It makes you realize that these laws are not just for mob bosses and emperors.
Not at all.
Really makes you think.
They're at play in our everyday lives, whether we realize it or not. It's about becoming more attuned to the subtle cues. The unspoken desires and the power dynamics that shape our interactions with others.
Speaking of subtle cues, no one did calculated aloofness quite like Queen Elizabeth I.
Oh, absolutely not. Law number 16. Use absence to increase respect and honor comes to mind.
A masterclass in strategic withholding. Everyone and their mother wanted to marry Elizabeth.
I bet.
But she knew her power was amplified by remaining single.
It's like she was playing hard to get on a global scale. But this wasn't just about romance, was it?
Not at all. By remaining intentionally aloof, Elizabeth kept everyone guessing, from potential suitors to entire nations. This air of mystery, of unattainability, fueled a desire for her attention, and by extension, her favor.
It's amazing how she used that perceived distance to her advantage.
It really is.
Speaking of unexpected moves, law number 22. Use the surrender tactic. Transform weakness into power
Okay.
Sounds counterintuitive.
Right.
Surrender? Isn't that admitting defeat?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
This is where Greene's genius lies, in recognizing the power of perception. Surrendering or appearing to can be a brilliant strategic maneuver.
Okay.
He uses the example of Ivan the Terrible.
Oh, this is the one where he stages this elaborate abdication
Yeah.
to solidify his power. Right. Talk about a power move.
Precisely. By seemingly giving up his throne, Ivan created chaos and exposed the fragility of the system without him.
Wow.
It was a calculated risk that paid off spectacularly.
The Boyars were practically begging him to come back.
They were.
But this feels like a high-stakes gamble.
It is.
Could this backfire?
Absolutely. This tactic requires a deep understanding of your audience, your opponents,
Right.
and the ability to anticipate reactions.
Okay.
Misread the room, and you might find yourself permanently dethroned.
So surrender in this context is less about waving a white flag.
Right.
And more about strategic maneuvering.
Absolutely.
It's about choosing your battles and recognizing that sometimes a temporary retreat can lead to a more advantageous position in the long run.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's about playing the long game, not just winning the battle in front of you.
Which brings us to a story that's almost too good to be true.
Okay.
Even Napoleon, the brilliant military strategist, had a weakness for well-placed deception.
He did.
Greene tells this hilarious story about Napoleon being tricked by a pig.
Ah, yes, the infamous boar hunt.
Wait, seriously? He fell for that. Tell me everything.
Well, it all started with Talleyrand.
Okay.
Talleyrand, the French diplomat, was a master of cunning.
Right.
Knew how much Napoleon loved boar hunting.
Okay.
So he arranged this elaborate ruse.
Okay, I'm already picturing this. Servants in hunting gear, a terrified piglet being chased through the forest.
Close, but even better. They dressed up a regular pig to look like a fearsome boar.
Wow.
And released it during a staged hunt.
Oh my God.
Napoleon, eager to impress everyone, totally fell for it.
No way. Did he realize what happened?
Here's where it gets really good.
Okay.
When an aide pointed out the deception, Napoleon, instead of getting angry or embarrassed, turned it into a joke.
He just rolled with it.
Exactly.
Wow.
He knew better than to let a bruised ego ruin his image.
Right. He turned a potential humiliation into a charming anecdote.
That's amazing.
Which leads us to Law 26. Keep your hands clean.
So it's not just about doing things right.
Right.
But how you handle it when things go wrong.
Exactly.
Spin control.
Precisely.
Right.
Perception management.
Okay.
A true master of power understands that owning your mistakes,
right,
even with humor,
yeah,
can actually enhance your image.
It makes you think about those leaders who get defensive
Well,
or try to shift blame when things go south.
Yeah.
Not exactly the most inspiring move, is it?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Transparency, even around mistakes, can build trust.
Right.
But let's shift gears a bit.
Okay.
Law number 27. Play on people's need to believe to create a cult-like following.
Okay.
Always makes me think about those charismatic figures throughout history,
right,
who seem to have everyone completely mesmerized.
Like those alchemists who claim to turn lead into gold.
Exactly. Or those self-proclaimed healers peddling miracle cures.
They understood this primal human need to believe in something bigger than themselves, something extraordinary.
So it's about tapping into those deep-seated desires, those hopes and fears.
Yes.
And offering a compelling narrative that resonates.
Precisely.
Wow.
Greene argues this law is at play everywhere, from religion and politics to marketing and social movements.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Think about how often we're drawn to those grand promises, those quick fixes that promise to solve everything.
It's like that saying, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything.
Exactly.
But how do we avoid becoming so swept up in the narrative that we lose sight of reality?
It's about cultivating a healthy skepticism, asking questions, and considering multiple perspectives.
Okay.
Don't just accept everything at face value.
Right.
Dig deeper, challenge assumptions, and form your own conclusions.
Easier said than done, sometimes right.
It can be.
But on a more proactive note, law number 28 encourages us to enter action with boldness.
Okay.
Is this about throwing caution to the wind and taking reckless risks?
Not quite.
Okay.
Greene distinguishes between recklessness and calculated boldness.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that hesitation and timidity can be just as dangerous as jumping into the deep end without a second thought.
Right.
Think of Balboa.
The guy who hacked his way through the jungles of Panama to reach the Pacific Ocean? Talk about a bold move.
Exactly.
Wow.
He didn't achieve that by sitting around waiting for someone to give him permission.
Right.
It was about seizing opportunity and acting decisively.
So boldness in this context is about calculated risk-taking, about having the vision to see the possibilities and the courage to act on them.
Yes.
But what about planning?
That leads us to law number 29, plan all the way to the end.
Okay.
Greene stresses the importance of having a clear objective and a strategy to achieve it.
Oh.
Don't get so caught up in the initial excitement of a plan that you neglect to consider the potential roadblocks and how you'll navigate them.
Right.
He uses the example of Columbus demanding unreasonable rewards from the King of Portugal before even setting sail on his expedition.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
A classic case of overplaying your hand.
Right.
The king understandably wasn't impressed.
Of course not.
It's a reminder that even the most ambitious goals require a grounded approach.
So it's like that saying, measure twice, cut once, but applied to the game of power?
Precisely.
Great.
Think several steps ahead.
Right.
Anticipate challenges.
Okay.
And most importantly, play your cards strategically.
Right.
Don't reveal your entire hand before you've even sat down at the table.
Which seems to tie into the next law, law number 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless.
Okay.
Is Greene suggesting we become masters of disguise, hiding the blood, sweat, and tears behind our achievements?
Not quite.
Okay.
It's more about presentation.
Okay.
It's about understanding that how you present your successes can be just as important as the successes themselves.
It's like those athletes who make insanely difficult moves look effortless.
Exactly.
We know they've spent countless hours training, but the way they present their achievements with that sense of ease makes them even more impressive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a certain allure to those who make the difficult seem easy.
Right.
It conveys a sense of mastery.
Right.
Of natural talent.
So it's not about downplaying your hard work, but about presenting it in a way that enhances your image, that adds to your mystique.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about understanding the power of perception and recognizing that sometimes a touch of artful presentation can go a long way.
This next law feels like it's straight out of a high-stakes poker game.
Okay.
Law number 31. Control the options. Get others to play with the cards you deal.
This is about setting the agenda.
Okay.
Framing the choices in a way that subtly guides others towards the outcome you desire.
Right.
It's about being a step ahead, anticipating their moves,
Right.
and setting the stage for your own success.
So you're not necessarily forcing their hand,
Right.
but you're subtly influencing the direction of the game.
Precisely. Think of Thomas Edison, who used this tactic brilliantly.
Okay.
He understood that by controlling the options, he could shape the future of the electrical industry.
It's about being a master strategist, isn't it?
It is.
Anticipating those ripple effects and using them to your advantage.
Yes.
Now, this next law, law number 32, play to people's fantasies,
Right.
seems like it could be used for good or not so good.
Indeed. It's about understanding that people are often more easily persuaded by what they want to be true rather than what actually is true.
Yeah.
Think about all those get-rich-quick schemes, those
Yeah.
miracle cures that promise instant results.
They're practically selling a fantasy, aren't they?
They are.
Tapping into that desire for a quick fix, for a shortcut to success.
Exactly. They prey on our deepest desires,
Right.
those aspirations that might be a little unrealistic.
Yeah.
And while this can certainly be used for unethical purposes,
Of course.
it's also a reminder that we're all susceptible to a good story, to the allure of a more fulfilling future.
This next law, law number 33, discover each man's thumbscrew.
Okay.
Makes me think about those detectives in old movies who could read people like a book.
It's about developing that same level of perception.
Right.
Of understanding what makes people tick.
Okay.
Greene argues that everyone has a thumbscrew,
Okay.
a weakness or insecurity that, when subtly leveraged,
Right.
can influence their behavior.
So it's about observing those unconscious cues, those tells that reveal what's really going on beneath the surface.
Precisely.
Right.
It's about paying attention to those subtle gestures, those inconsistencies in their words and actions that betray their true feelings.
It's a bit like finding their kryptonite, that one thing that makes them vulnerable.
In a way, yes.
Okay.
But it's important to remember that this knowledge should be wielded responsibly.
Right, of course.
It's not about exploiting people's weaknesses for personal gain,
right.
but rather understanding how to navigate the complexities of human relationships.
It's about playing the game with integrity. Speaking of which, law number 34, be royal in your own fashion.
Okay.
Act like a king to be treated like one.
Right.
Seems like a fine line between confidence and arrogance.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not about being boastful or entitled.
Okay.
But about embodying an air of self-assuredness,
right,
regardless of your circumstances.
So fake it till you make it.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that people often respond to how we carry ourselves.
Right.
Project confidence,
Yeah.
even if you're not feeling it.
Right.
And others are more likely to perceive you as competent and capable.
So much of what we've talked about comes down to perception, doesn't it?
It does.
The way we present ourselves, the way we read others.
Right.
But law number 35, master the art of timing, suggests that it's not just about how we play the game,
right,
but when.
Precisely. Timing can be everything.
Right.
Greene divides it into 3 types.
Okay.
Long time, force time,
okay,
and end time.
Okay.
Each with its own set of strategic implications.
Okay.
I'm intrigued.
Break it down for us.
Long time emphasizes the virtue of patience.
Okay.
It's about biding your time, waiting for the right moment to make your move.
Okay.
Like a predator stalking its prey.
So sometimes the most powerful move is to do nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about resisting the urge to react impulsively.
Right.
And instead choosing your moments strategically.
Okay.
Then there's force time.
This one sounds a little more aggressive.
It can be.
Oh.
It's about creating a sense of urgency,
right,
applying pressure to force your opponents into making hasty decisions,
okay,
often to their detriment.
So you're basically dictating the tempo, pushing them off balance so they make mistakes.
Precisely.
Wow.
And finally, end time.
Okay.
The often overlooked art of knowing when to quit while you're ahead.
It's tempting to keep pushing to ride that wave of success.
Right.
But that's often when disaster strikes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Greene cautions against becoming a victim of your own victories. Remember, even Alexander the Great eventually met his match.
Yeah, sure.
Knowing when to consolidate your gains, to step back from the brink, can be the difference between lasting success and a spectacular fall from grace.
Speaking of knowing when to step back.
Okay.
Law number 36. Disdain things you cannot have.
Yeah.
Ignoring them is the best revenge. Always makes me think about those things we desperately want.
Right.
But can't seem to attain.
It's a tough one.
It is.
But there's wisdom in letting go of that obsessive desire by fixating on what you lack.
Yeah.
You're essentially giving it power over you.
It's like that saying, you want what you can't have.
Right.
The moment you stop chasing,
yeah,
it seems to magically appear.
Exactly.
Right.
By shifting your focus, your energy to what you can control.
Right.
You not only regain a sense of power, but you also make yourself more attractive, more desirable in the process.
And then, of course, there's the art of the spectacle, which seems like the polar opposite of this understated approach.
True.
Yeah.
But law number 37, create compelling spectacles, is not about being flashy for the sake of it.
Right.
It's about understanding the power of presentation, of creating moments that capture the imagination.
In a world saturated with information, sometimes you need to create a spectacle to cut through the noise.
Precisely.
Right.
Think about those historical figures who truly understood the power of a grand gesture.
Yeah.
Caesar with his triumphal processions.
Right.
Elizabeth I with her elaborate courtly displays.
Right.
These were not just for show.
Right.
They were calculated displays of power and authority.
It makes you realize that sometimes a bit of theatricality can be incredibly effective.
It can.
But then just when I think I'm starting to get a handle on this whole power dynamics thing,
okay,
law number 38 throws me for a loop.
Which one is that?
Think as you like, but behave like others.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, so now we're supposed to blend in?
Not exactly.
Okay.
This isn't about abandoning your individuality. It's about recognizing that there's a time and a place for standing out.
Okay.
There's also a time for strategic conformity.
So pick your battles.
Precisely.
Okay.
By outwardly conforming to social norms, you deflect attention, avoid unnecessary conflict, and conserve your energy for more important battles.
Right.
It's about playing the long game.
Conserving your energy for those moments when it really counts.
Exactly.
Okay. Law number 39. Stir up waters to catch fish.
Right.
This one sounds a little risky.
It can be.
Okay.
But it's based on the understanding that chaos creates opportunity.
Okay.
A skilled strategist knows how to subtly guide events.
Right.
Even introduce a bit of controlled chaos to their advantage.
It's like those military diversions create a small problem over there to distract everyone from your real objective.
Exactly.
Well, yeah.
Of course, this requires a certain level of finesse.
Right, of course.
Greene cautions against creating chaos you can't control.
Let's move on to law number 40. Despise the free lunch.
Okay.
This one seems especially relevant in today's consumerist society.
It does.
Where everyone's always trying to sell us something.
Right.
Yeah.
If something seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Right.
There are always strings attached.
Right.
A hidden cost, a motive we might not initially perceive.
Some buyer beware.
Exactly.
Right.
Approach any offer that seems too generous with a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
Ask questions. Read the fine print.
Right.
And remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Now, law number 41, avoid stepping into a great man's shoes.
Right.
Has me thinking about legacy.
Okay.
It seems to suggest that trying to emulate our heroes, our predecessors, can actually hinder our own growth.
Precisely. It's easy to fall into the trap of trying to replicate someone else's success.
Right.
But true power, true innovation comes from forging your own path.
It's about building on the foundations laid by those who came before us. It's not simply retracing their steps.
Exactly.
Right.
Learn from the past, but don't be beholden to it.
Right.
Carve your own path.
Law number 42. Strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter.
Right.
It seems a bit ruthless.
It does.
But there's no denying its effectiveness in dismantling a power structure.
It's a classic strategy for a reason.
Yeah.
By targeting the leader, the central figure, you create a ripple effect that can destabilize the entire system.
It's about understanding that power often flows from the top down.
It does.
Disrupt that flow.
Right.
And you can create chaos and opportunity in the process.
You can.
Of course, brute force can only take you so far.
It's true.
Law number 43, work on the hearts and minds of others.
Okay.
Recognizes the importance of persuasion of winning people over.
Absolutely.
Okay.
True leadership is about more than just giving orders.
Right.
It's about inspiring others.
Right.
About creating a shared vision. About connecting on a human level.
So it's not just about what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly.
It's about appealing to both the head and the heart.
Yes.
Law number 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect.
Right.
Always reminds you of that saying, fight fire with fire.
It's a similar principle, but perhaps a bit more nuanced.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that sometimes the most effective way to disarm someone, especially if they're being difficult or aggressive, is to reflect their behavior back at them.
So if someone's being overly aggressive, you match their energy.
Not necessarily match it, but reflect it back in a way that exposes their tactics.
Okay.
Often this unexpected response can disarm them, forcing them to confront their own behavior.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way, you're holding up a mirror to their own absurdity.
Right.
Now, law number 45, preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once.
Right.
Feels incredibly relevant in today's rapidly changing world.
It does.
How do we embrace change without creating chaos and resistance?
It's about finding that delicate balance.
Right.
Greene's point is that change is often best implemented gradually.
Right.
People need time to adapt, to adjust to new realities. Sudden sweeping changes often lead to pushback.
It's like turning a giant ship.
Right.
It takes time and careful maneuvering to change course.
It does.
Law number 46, never appear too perfect.
Okay.
It's like a tough one.
It can be.
Especially in a world where we're constantly bombarded with images of unattainable perfection.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that even the most successful people have flaws or have vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
Trying to appear perfect can actually make you seem less relatable, less trustworthy.
So it's okay to let our guard down a bit to show a little vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Right.
It makes you seem more human, more approachable.
This next law number 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop.
Okay.
Seems to be a common thread throughout history.
It is.
Leaders who achieve great things.
Right.
Only to overreach and ultimately face downfall.
It's a classic tale of hubris.
It is.
We achieve a goal.
All right.
And then we want more, bigger, better.
Yeah.
But there's wisdom in knowing when to stop, when to consolidate your gains and enjoy your success.
It's like those people who win the lottery and then it all falls apart because they couldn't handle it.
It's a reminder that true mastery lies not just in achieving victory, but in knowing how to savor it, to avoid that insatiable hunger for more.
And finally, we come to law number 48, assume formlessness.
Okay.
This one sounds almost philosophical.
It is. It's about recognizing that rigidity and flexibility, these are weaknesses, not strengths.
Okay.
The most successful people are adaptable, fluid, able to change with the circumstances.
Be like water, my friend. It's a powerful image, isn't it?
It is.
The ability to adapt, to flow around obstacles, to find a way through even the most challenging situations.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that the only constant is change, and those who can embrace that fluidity will be the ones who thrive.
Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power has certainly given us a lot to think about.
It has.
These laws are like inherently good or bad.
That's the thing about knowledge. Yeah. It's a tool. How we use it, that's where the real power lies.
So are we all just pawns in some elaborate game of power?
We're all players in the game, whether we realize it or not.
Right.
The real question is, what kind of player do you want to be?
That's something for all of us to ponder.
It is.
Until next time, remember, knowledge is power.
It is.
And knowing the rules of the game is the first step to mastering it.